Hi there, Chris here. So today I'm going to be making some double-sided placemats for the holidays. So one side is going to be Thanksgiving themed, while the other is more Christmas themed. And to do this, I'm going to actually be using the two dies that AccuQuilt released this month. So for the Thanksgiving side, we'll be using the turkey and the straw. This makes a 10-inch block. And for the Christmas side, we will be using the new friendship chain, which also makes a 10-inch block. Each placemat will be 2 blocks, and then I'm going to put some strips along the top and bottom just to make it a little bit wider to be more proportional to a placemat. For the Thanksgiving side, I've picked out these fun fall fabrics, and then these for the Christmas side. I will be making 2 placemats, so that's a total of 4 blocks. I'm going to start with the Thanksgiving side and get those made. And again, that is the turkey and the straw block. So this is a block on board die. And what that means is it has all of the shapes on a single die board to make that block. And you can typically get everything cut for your block in one pass. This is a 6-inch by 24-inch die board, so it will fit through any of the AccuQuilt Go cutters, including the Go Me and the Go Baby. So on the back of the packaging for the dies, it tells us how much fabric we need for each color in their example. So since I am making 4 blocks to make the 2 placemats, I'll need 4 4.5-inch squares, 8 5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles of color 1. Color 2, I'll need 5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles. So I'll need a total of 8 of those. Fabric 3, which is the background. 2 3 7/8 squares. And then cut 2 2 3/8 by 5 3/8 rectangles, place for shape D. All right, so I'm going to get all of these rough cut shapes done, and then I can cut out with the die. Now that we have all of our rough cuts done, we can start laying them onto the die board. Now some of these have 8 pieces, so I won't be able to do both placemats in a single pass, but we'll be able to get a lot of them done. So start stacking these up. You can do up to 6 layers of quilting cotton. Now we can add our 6 by 24 cutting mat. Just lay that right on top. Slide off cutting mat. Now that we've got all our pieces cut, we can follow the assembly instructions to make our block. I'm going to lay one out just so we can get a good visual. And now we can start sewing. So it looks like we're going to sew the rectangle units first. Next, we will make these triangle units. So it starts with the flying geese. And then we add on the 2 little edge triangles. And now we can attach the point. Now we need to make a center column here. So I'll take these pieces. Sew those together in a row. And now we'll do the corners. And now we can join them all together. And there's one done. Just gonna make 3 more. All right, we've got the Thanksgiving side done, so let's move on to the Christmas side. So I used the Go Quilt feature on the AccuQuilt website to mock up what the blocks would look like. So this is what each block is going to look like. And when they're all together, it gets kind of like a peppermint swirl design. The placemats are only going to be 2 blocks, but this still gives a better idea of what it's going to look like. Now with this, I did make a test block and I had to play around with the color placement. So the red and white pieces are going to be cut from these 2 parts here, which are mirror images. So you're going to have a left side and a right side. And for this design, I need all of the reds to be a left side, all of the whites to be a right side. But because I'm making 2 placemats, I'm just going to cut them out like normal. And then one of the placemats will go red, white, and the other will be white, red. So not a big deal, but just something to keep in mind if you are planning this design. I went ahead and already rough cut my fabric. So now we'll just start laying it out. Let's lay out a block. So this is what our block is going to look like. And what's nice is all of these sections are actually exactly the same. So I can sew them all with a white piece on the left and a red piece on the right of the center. I'm just going to grab these all and head over to the sewing machine. Now that these are all sewn, we can simply arrange them. Then we just sew these as half square triangles. Now we can just join these together, join the 2 rows, and we'll have a block. Here you can see where these are going in opposite directions. If I were to bump these up, then we have white and red touching, no matter which way we turn it. But since they're 2 separate projects, it does not matter. So now we're just going to join these together and add a strip at the top and bottom. And now the Christmas side is done. Next step is to sandwich these together with a piece of batting in between and then quilt it. Normally, when you do quilting, you just put your backing down and then your batting and then your top. And your backing is usually a bit larger than your quilt top. In this case, they're both exactly the same size. So I'm going to cut the batting the same size as well and just be really careful when lining them up. I am also going to use some spray basting to make sure that nothing shifts on me. So today I'm going to be using some June Taylor quilt basting spray to hold all my layers together. Now for the quilting, I need something that's going to look good on both the front and the back. So I'm just going to do some simple crosshatch using my masking tape method. So I'll just take some masking tape. So I'll go in about the center. And that will be my first line. So with my walking foot, I will just stitch right along that. It'll be about 1/4 inch away because of the width of the walking foot. And then I will move the tape and just continue on this direction. And then I will turn it crosswise and go the other way. I've got the quilting all complete on both sides. So now we need to bind it. So I debated on what to bind it with that would look good on both sides because they're both very different. But I came up with a new thing that I think might work for this. So I'm actually going to do a double-sided binding where one side will have this for the Thanksgiving and one side will have this for the Christmas. I've never done it before, so it's a little bit of an experiment. So I'm going to sew all these strips end to end and then sew them together lengthwise and then do some pressing, and I'll show you that. So I've got my binding strip created. You can see on this side it's the orange for the Thanksgiving, and on the side it is red for Christmas. So basically, I started with two 1.5-inch strips and I sewed them lengthwise. Then I pressed that seam open, and then I pressed both of the raw edges into the center and pressed it again. So now I'm going to attach this the same way I would attach any binding strip to my placemats, except instead of just sewing a 1/4 inch away from the edge, what I will do is unfold this and line up the raw edge here with the raw edge of the placemat, and sew right in that divot or the crease. Doing the mitered corners will be the same, but instead of stopping a 1/4 inch from the edge, I'll just stop the same distance that this is, which is about 3/8 of an inch. And then I'll do my normal pivot and all of that. So let's go get this sewn on. It doesn't really matter which side you start from, but you do want to make sure that the side of the binding you want on there is the one that is touching. So like always, I'll leave myself an unsewn tail of about 10 to 12 inches. And then I'm going to stitch right in that crease all the way down. So as I approach the corners, I'm going to stop shy of the corner by the same distance of my seam allowance, which I measured in is actually 1/2 inch for this binding. I'll then pivot my project and sew a 45-degree angle off to the corner. And then I'll take the binding and fold it at a 45-degree angle away from the project so that the raw edge is parallel with the placemat, and then fold it back on itself with a 90-degree crease and line up the raw edges. And then I'll just start sewing the next side. I have another video that goes more in depth about my binding techniques. All of the principles are the same, just some of the measurements are different for this project. I'll link that video in the description below. My other video also covers joining your ends when doing the binding. You'll want to make sure that you leave yourself enough space to work. This is a smaller project, so it doesn't have to be that wide, probably about 8 or 10 inches. Then you're going to trim your starting piece, and you're going to trim it at about the halfway point of that opening. Easiest way to get a 90-degree angle is to fold your fabric back on itself, insert your scissors, and snip. Now you'll take that piece that you cut off and actually use it as your measurement guide. So I just line up the raw edge and open it up. In this case, it's about 2.5 inches. I just find it easiest to do that to make sure you have a nice accurate measurement. Then you'll lay your ending tail on top and cut it at the other edge of the measurement piece. Again, just fold your fabric back on itself and snip. To join the pieces, I always take the tail closest to me and open it up and put it off to the right of my project. And then I will take the ending tail, open it up, and lay it right sides together with the other tail. If you need to, you can always pin at this point. Having it already attached to your project can make it a little harder to sew. And then you will just sew from corner to corner, so you'll get a nice 45-degree seam in your binding. Before trimming your piece, you will want to open it up just to make sure that everything lays flat. Once you've confirmed that, you can trim your seam allowance at about 1/4 inch and finger press it open. And then just continue sewing on your binding as you were. Once the binding's attached all the way around, you can flip it over to the other side and press it. I also used my glue basting technique that is in my other video for this project, and it worked out really well. Next, you'll just need to sew about 1/8 of an inch from the folded edge to secure your binding all the way around, and you're done. All done. And the binding turned out just how I wanted it to. So on this side, it's orange, and on this side, it's red. Right along the edge is where the seam is. So I'll leave a link below for both the turkey and the straw die, as well as the friendship chain. So if you want to check those out to make your own placemats. I'll also leave a link for my binding tutorial. It's not the same kind of binding, but has a lot of the same principles for attaching it to your quilts. Thanks for watching. See you next time.